So again, the aim is to having a successful risk assessment. And this is where your biggest challenge in your careers is going to occur. I still get it myself day to day. And I can use lots and lots of examples as well. We need commitment and support from the top tier management and also your employees. And this is actually then to achieve a working partnership. And that's the partnership. The challenges you will find is management will say, no, this is the decision, this is what they're going to do without consultation with the employees. Because the employees then will identify some of the key issues of the risk and say, we can't do this. There's an impression then from the top tier management to say, well, they're only complaining, they're moaning, they just don't want to do it. But actually, if you really spend that time with individuals and work together as a working group and get that commitment and you get that support, that you'll never have a singing and dancing 100% perfect risk assessment, but it's a working one where you're agreeing to it and it's a living, breathing process as mentioned. And that's when you have a good, aligned relationship with your top tier management and your employees as well, and also your trade unions. So by doing that, it improves effective communication. So when we feed that communication, we don't want to just give that information to the employee and say, read that, sign on the register, and everybody thinks, oh, because they signed the register, that it's the get out the jail free card. Not at all. We have to show how effective have we communicated that important communication for a safety alert, risk assessment, safe operating procedure. All those are examples. And by measuring that effectiveness of communication, we need that feedback from individuals. Is it understood, or they may have picked up on something else that we need to further investigate as well. So effective communication is really vital as part of your agenda and your development process when doing risk assessments. Doing them is not just a tick box. You've got to communicate it. The next part is developing the proactive safety culture. And I love this where I'm dealing with it today in my current role. Culture, they say, well, I want to drive a safety culture on the shop floor. Well, I'll always walk the middle line and I look at the business profile as a whole and I think, right, okay, let's have a look at the accidents. What type of relationship is the management? What is the relationship with the trade union? And what I've learned in many, many ways, actually safety culture is at all levels. And you get very good employees, you get very good supervisors, and you get very good senior managers. But sometimes you've got a mixed bag of poor performers as well within that mix. And this is where we've got to identify that profile. So safety culture is one of these. It's not off the shelf. You've got to look at how you actually drive it at different levels. And then all, as I mentioned from before, is how you align that process. So one thing I've always highlighted during my lectures in the past, where proactive is great, but we're very good at being reactive in many organisations. And even in my past history of my career, that most of my role is very reactive. Again, I'm dealing with reactive situations now today. Which I find quite, again, frustrating because they could have been very proactive if the safety culture was really bought into this as well. So this is one of your journeys that you will drive forward on making that change in culture at all levels and getting that buy-in as well. So to achieve an effective organisational structure, everybody's accountable now. In current legislation where we always look at the lead in mind in the past, but now we've got to make it quite clear what the roles and responsibilities are. And because of that, people have become more tactile on how they communicate to individuals. You know, if you've got a challenge and you're highlighting something on an email of concerns, and then you get an email back, will you please ring me? It seems funny then when you have that discussion over a telephone call, it's not very auditable at that particular point. So, you know, these are clear examples about proactive or reactive type of situations. If you look at construction sites, the good thing about the change profile, and construction's really move forward. There's still always the challenging issues, but if you look at the accident performance and history of construction, they've definitely improved, because now, by having that clear roles and responsibilities, when you go to any construction activity, no matter how big, how small it is, there's a clear, family organgram. It's basically with your roles and responsibilities, who's the senior manager, who's the health and safety advisor, who's the auditor. Then you've got all the personnel with their skill sets on it as well. So everybody is accountable now. It's quite clear as well. I call it a family tree personally, and because the aim is, if you call it the family tree, everybody's working together, and that's when you're trying to harmonise the roles and responsibilities, because you do need each other. And that's something I've really enjoyed working on the construction side, on the high voltage substations, where I was brought into a particular substation in Wimple where they had lots of issues, where there was a lot of cable strikes and contractor issues. Gone in and then restructured how the organisational family tree is going to go, how we're going to do proactive safety instead of reactive safety, how we are communicating, challenging management, that they have to actually be there when they're talking, they have to do the talk, walk the walk as well. All those particular examples. And again, one of the other key factors is effective and up-to-date training. And again, we need to measure what the effectiveness of internal and external training. And by challenging training, it helps the performance of the accident ratios as well, because I've with a lot of investigations I've been involved with, they always blame training. And when you dig deep, and I've challenged the training organisations, I said, well, prove it to me. And then I'll have the feedback sheets and say, yeah, this is really good training, I've learned from this as well. And when there's another particular incident and they blame the training again, and I say, look, the feedback is actually saying, I've learned, it's really developed, so what's wrong? They blame the equipment. So we'll have a look at the equipment and we say, well, are you training on the use of equipment effectively? So you can see the pros and cons, and by doing that, we actually get a true reflection of the effectiveness of the type of training that we do, and whether it's up to date, or are we just doing it just to say, yeah, they've been trained, tick box, so we can show the training where there's an accident or there's a claim. And also there's a tick box because they've been briefed and they've signed on the register. But again, by any good regulatory investigator, the more they dive into it and ask the right questions, yeah, you might have got the ticks and the boxes, but when you talk to individuals, they say, well, I was just given it, I was just informed it, I just went through the e-learning and I just clicked through the buttons. So these are great examples about we still need to measure that by following the successful risk assessment, because when we put it in training on risk assessment, that they train and competent, I always make sure that I also highlight when do they actually have the refresher training, how would we monitor the training. Those are particular elements that I need to evidence to the regulatory body. And by doing that, I'm working with senior management. Even if you're in a senior management role, you've got to go out and talk to people, and even the trade unions. And by having that, I will always walk that middle line, because basically I'm the conscious of the business, and also I'm basically like a referee, because I'm making sure what rules are being broken, either that they get a red card or there's an amber card that we suspend the work and get it back to normal, get it right. And on showing that, I'm developing the trust aspect with the trade unions and the employees. I don't paint a pretty picture that say and give false promises. This is where I say, look, I will try to deal with this matter. I will bring it to the attention of the senior management. But if I don't always win that aspect of it, I will also tell senior management, I will feed back the reasons why we're not going to carry out that particular activity. And then we reassess that risk profile and we actually try to manage it. So I'm one of these, I don't give a false promise. I have to go there and deal with that. And in doing so, when I trying to develop that culture, the trust aspects is there. You don't win them all. You will have elements of individuals where they're very anti organisation as well, and it's hopefully the employees will develop and work on those individuals as well, and that's the cultural bit. It's not about me changing the culture, it's about people working in that environment, making a culture change. That's what that is, and management then buying into it and listening and not taking challenges to heart and blaming. So that's a journey. That is a journey.